Luke Thomas in Washington, D.C. at the Cleveland Clinic Brain Study Press Conference next to Bellator light heavyweight Phil Davis. Phil, how you doing today?
Doing good, doing good.
Feeling good? You look good. Middle of camp. You left camp. Big sacrifice?
A big sacrifice, but I think a lot of reward on the other side of that, so it's worth it.
So I want you to weigh in on this debate because you left your camp. Now it's a 6-hour flight for folks who may not know from L.A. to D.C., and you're here. You got here last night. You're leaving tomorrow. You're leaving tonight. So you're here for like 24 hours, basically, something like that, right? How do you feel about what Conor McGregor's doing? Saying, I don't want to fly from Iceland all the way to Las Vegas. I would meet you in New York. Look, I made the company a bunch of money. Cut me some slack. Are you with him or are you against him?
Well, he had some legitimate concerns that, he needed to get met. And, I certainly don't, condone, having the fans miss out on a great fight. And I'm sure he's not happy about that either. But, if there was a better way for him to get his concerns met and bring those things to the forefront that he needs to get done so he can have a good performance, I think he would have done it. But I think moving forward, there's going to be better communication on both sides to make sure that the fans don't miss out on the fight that they've been looking for.
Why don't fighters ever get things in writing like this? Like in boxing, they do. Well, the bigger ones do. But I was just thinking, if Tom Brady was required to promote, that would be in his contract. So why aren't MMA fighters doing it? Is it just a function of a lack of leverage?
I think that's probably what it is. It's just a lack of leverage or, the possibility of being left behind.
Now, you're not promoting your fight here, but it's a...
But I am fighting May 14th, main event, in the SAP Center in San Jose.
You certainly are, yes, against King Mo Lawal. Should fighters be paid to promote?
Even
if it's a modest stipend, should they be paid, like a per diem, that kind of thing?
Definitely. You're providing. It's not everyone's required to do it, and that's where it becomes unfair.
But you're headlining. Headliners should be paid, right?
Technically I am being paid more than the guy who isn't headlining, but I agree with you. There should be some sort of compensation for that.
All right, so you're taking on Mo Lawal. This will be May 14th. You guys have been, I don't know, it's not quite buddy-buddy, not quite icy, something in the middle. What is it about Mo Lawal? How would you characterize your relationship with him?
We go way back, he and I. We go way back. So to now, to having known him for a decade and plus, it's it's kind of weird to say. And we're also from wrestling, and nobody really talks trash in wrestling except for a few guys, a couple of bad boys. Ben Askren, he's one of the main ones in wrestling that talks trash. Nobody else really talks trash. So we have a little bit different take. We come from a background where you show respect. I mean, behind closed doors, I'm like, man, I'm gonna beat this guy's butt. I mean, that's obvious. Of course, we're going to say that.
So wrestlers are just passive aggressive. Is that the idea?
Well, that is the idea. That is the idea. We're very passive aggressive. We think it, and we might smirk it or grin it, but we not so much say it.
But what? There's been not a rivalry exactly, but an opportunity to see what exactly the pecking order is.
Oh, absolutely. And that's completely understood, if not explicitly, definitely so. And some posturing, whatever, what have you. But we definitely we're going to throw down no matter what.
There's a question going around. So Jon Jones came back. It looked to me like he was rusty. He didn't say it was rusty. He said it was an opponent switch. But every time you bring it up, everyone else says the same thing, and it drives me crazy. I've addressed it already on video. They all say, well, Dominic Cruz came back after 3 years, which is to me the all-time most outrageously ignorant thing to say because Dominic Cruz is such a special athlete. How does Dominic Cruz do it though? You're at Alliance. Can you at least give us some context to help us understand how a guy can be out that long and be that good?
Well, I really can't give away Dominic's secrets. I was the one who taught him everything he knows. If you ask Dominic, he'll tell you the same thing. But Dominic, he's a special guy, and he's very persistent, not just with training, but in just his approach towards everything. He's a little bit of a maniac, So he's constantly not just in the gym, but he's constantly moving, constantly learning, rehabbing. I mean, he's probably missed 5 rehabs in 5 years. He's proactive about not getting injured again and rehabbing his old injuries.
So Benson Henderson had his fight on Friday. Didn't go so well. Now, it was up a weight class. In some ways, understandable the loss, especially when you physically laid eyes on the two and you saw the size disparity. But my colleague Ariel Helwani had noted, and people have observed it, that a lot of times guys leave the UFC, they were doing great, and then they just go and they just kind of S the bet a little bit when they go somewhere else. So again, I don't think that's quite Henderson's situation given the weight class. But you didn't do that. You came out of the gate roaring. Why do so many guys falter when they leave the UFC?
There's this stigma. People say, "Oh man, well, you are so great over here. Oh, once you're over here, you're going to be really great." And that's not the case. That's not the case. And a lot of times fans will say that, and they don't understand. Man, there are tough guys on the left, and there's tough guys on the right. And once you get over here, these guys are hungry to prove themselves in the world. They want that top ranking, and they're going to come after you. They're going to come after you to get it.
What did you make of Jon Jones' performance? Was it ring rust? Was it an opponent switch? And I guess, do you still like his chances against Daniel Cormier?
I think it was a little ring rust. It may have been a little bit of an opponent switch, but I will not take anything away from Ovince St. Preux. He fought a very tactical fight. He didn't fall into a lot of the traps that other guys fell into. He had great wrestling. He was working with one of my friends, John Labarani, to help him get ready on his wrestling. He had a great stand-up. He got taken down early on, popped right back up like a professional, like a guy who went to college for 4 years wrestling, folks. So, he put in a lot of work. He put in a lot of work and stayed out of a lot of the traps of Jon Jones. We just haven't seen someone stay out of as many bad positions as he did in a long time. Even with a guy like Daniel Cormier, they had a much more competitive fight. But Jones was still able to force him into those terrible positions where he beats guys up and elbows him and beats the crap out of them. He was able to put Daniel Cormier there a little bit more often than he was able to do so with OSP.
So we're here talking about brain injury and brain trauma. You've been in competitive wrestling and competitive mixed martial arts. We sort of have at least a vague idea of what happens to the brain in MMA. I've heard a lot of wrestlers say that the concussion problem there is not discussed at all, that guys will get slammed on their head and you just get back up and keep going, especially in a sport where, like you think of Iowa wrestling, where there is no such thing as pain and suffering, just only determination. Right. How bad is the head injury problem in wrestling?
Everything is a case-by-case thing, as well with fighting. Your wrestling style has a lot to do with it. Whether you're an upper body guy or a leg attack guy, the biggest thing, not so much on the big throws in wrestling. In amateur wrestling, college or high school wrestling, folk style wrestling, if a guy gets lifted off the mat and then slammed, the match is usually going to be over, and the guy who gets slammed wins. So if you're any good,
but in freestyle, look at Tony Ramos. He just lost because he didn't have the bigger throw between him and Frank Molinaro. These guys are, they're lifting each other super high into the air, and they're coming crashing to the canvas.
Oh, absolutely. But part of that is also knowing how to fall as a freestyle wrestler. You get guys like T.C. Danzler. That's a throwback guy. T.C. Danzler, he's the man. He became so good at reverse gut wrenches. He would pick guys up chest high and power bomb them right on the back of their neck. And he had done it so many times that USA Wrestling said, "Listen, bud, you got to stop. You can do that overseas. You better do it in the Olympics, but you can't injure the rest of our American field." He was, time after time, it became one of those things that you had to almost cheat to allow him not to slam you on your neck, and he was going to slam the crap out of you. So, there are some measures in place to stop those big slams in wrestling. The biggest thing where concussions have the opportunity to take place is when two guys shoot in at the same time and you headbutt, and that's really your biggest threat for the headbutt. But guys will probably tell you that if that happens, you probably should have set your shot up a little better. You should have faked. You should have moved the guy around and kind of avoided his head. But things happen. You get tired. You hit head. So.
Well, hopefully you and another wrestler, Mo Lawal, won't do that on May 14th at the SAP Center when you guys fight in the main event for Bellator 154, right?
Well, there may be some hitting of head, but I cannot promise you it'll be mutual.
Phil Davis, thank you for your time. Best of luck to you.
Thank you.